Welcome to Peru Tech Future Vision YouTube channel. Welcome to Bridge course on application of science and engineering. I am Dr. R. Perumal, Professor of Petrochemical Engineering from JCT College of Engineering and Technology, Coimbatore. In your school days, all of you have studied maths, physics and chemistry, in which you have studied several number of theorems, basic principles, fundamentals laws, etc. etc. Application of these scientific principles in our day-to-day life is termed as engineering. Application of science is called as engineering. Now we will discuss about the application of chemistry in chemical and petrochemical industry. So law of conservation of mass, law of constant proportion, units and dimensions. So these all are the basic concepts we have studied in our school days. Now let us throw some lights on how these concepts are effectively applied in chemical engineering. Let us consider a real life situation, burning of carbon. Burning of a charcoal, coal and carbon is a common phenomena in every chemical and petrochemical industry. The chemistry behind this burning is carbon reacts with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. In a chemical industry, an engineer is given a task to produce 1 ton of carbon dioxide. So now this is the task given to the engineer. The engineer has to decide how much carbon he has to take and how much oxygen he has to burn. So in order to calculate this quantity, he has to write the stoichiometry of the reaction. The reaction is given as C plus O2 gives CO2. Here 1 mole of carbon reacts with 1 mole of oxygen to give 1 mole of carbon dioxide. But in actual practice, we cannot fit the raw materials in terms of moles. We have to use either mass basis or volume basis. Here, the molecular weight comes into the picture. What is molecular weight? Weight of 1 mole of any substance is called as molecular weight. Here, the weight of carbon is 12 kg. That is, 1 mole of carbon weighs 12 kilograms and 1 mole of oxygen weighs 32 kilograms. So 1 mole of 12 kilograms of carbon, 32 kilograms of oxygen reacts and gives 44 kilograms of carbon dioxide. So to produce 44 kilogram of carbon dioxide, 12 kilogram of carbon is required. Therefore, to produce 1 ton of carbon dioxide, the quantity of carbon required is calculated as 272.73 kilogram and the quantity of oxygen required is calculated as 727.27 kilogram. Here 272.73 kilogram carbon reacts with 727.27 kilogram of oxygen to produce 1 ton of carbon dioxide. Here the input raw material is carbon and oxygen. The total mass of the input is 1000 kilogram. The output also 1000 kilogram. Therefore, the mass of the substance in the input stream is equal to the mass of the product in the output stream. Here the mass in equal to mass output. This implies law of conservation of mass. Mass neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. What are the quantity enter into the reactor as a reactant and leaves the reactor as a product? So mass is neither created nor destroyed. Law of conservation of mass is understood by this example. Next, we will discuss about carbon plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide. Here 12 kilogram of carbon reacts with 32 kilogram of oxygen to give 44 kilogram of carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide, the weight of the carbon dioxide is 44 kilograms. The carbon dioxide contains carbon and oxygen in the ratio of 12:32. That is 12 kilogram of carbon reacts with 32 kilogram of oxygen produces carbon dioxide. Therefore, the ratio of the carbon to oxygen is 3:8. To produce 44 kg of carbon dioxide, the ratio is 3:8. Now we have produced 1000 kg of carbon dioxide, which contains 272.73 kg of carbon, 727.27 kg of oxygen. The ratio between carbon to oxygen is 3:8. Whatever it may be the quantity of carbon dioxide, the ratio between the carbon and the oxygen will be in the ratio of 3:8. This is called as law of constant proportion. The law of constant proportion states that a given chemical compound always contains its component elements in fixed ratio by mass and does not depend upon source and method of preparation. So this is way we can understand the law of constant proportion and law of conservation of mass. Here carbon plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide. Carbon is in solid state, oxygen is in gaseous phase, and carbon dioxide also in gaseous phase. So we need 272.73 kg of carbon and 727.27 kg of oxygen. But carbon is in the solid state. We can measure the carbon in terms of mass. But oxygen is in gaseous phase. So it is conventionally the gas phase reactants are measured in terms of volume. Here we have to apply the concept of units and dimension to convert the mass into volume. To convert the mass into volume, you divide the mass by density, it will give volume. When mass is expressed in terms of kilogram, the volume must be expressed in terms of meter cube. So here units and dimensions are applied. Now we will discuss about the application of law of conservation of energy in petroleum refinery. Now let us take the real life situation of a petroleum refining operation. In a petroleum refinery, crude oil is distilled to produce various end products like petrol, kerosene, diesel, fuel oil, LPG, lube oil, wax, etc. etc. Here, the crude oil is in a reservoir, is heated in a furnace. The crude oil is vaporized in the furnace and the vapor enters into the distillation tower at the bottom. The vapor travels from bottom to top. At the bottom of the tower, the temperature will be high. As soon as it reaches the top of the tower, the temperature will be dropped. The crude oil contains various hydrocarbons such as butane, propane, petrol, kerosene, diesel, fuel oil, lube oil, wax, asphalt, tar, etc. etc. So these hydrocarbons are called as components. So the crude oil containing various components has different boiling points. Due to this boiling point difference, the components are separated from the distillation tower from crude oil. The various products obtained from petroleum refining is listed as butane and propane at 20 degrees centigrade, petrol at 150 degrees centigrade, kerosene at 200 degrees centigrade, diesel at 300 degrees centigrade, fuel oil at 370 degrees centigrade, lube oil, paraffin, wax, asphalt at more than 400 degrees centigrade. Now we will discuss how the energy is transformed from one form to another form in a petroleum refinery. Here the crude oil has some energy that is called chemical energy. When it's stored in a overhead tank, it has some energy that is called potential energy. So chemical energy is transformed into potential energy. From the reservoir, it is allowed to flow through the heater. The potential energy is now converted into kinetic energy. Then the crude oil is heated. The kinetic energy is converted into heat energy, and which in turn converts into thermal energy. Finally, the thermal energy is converted into chemical energy. So this is the method of converting energy from one form to another form in a petroleum refinery. Here the law of conservation of energy is understood. The energy can be neither created nor destroyed. one form of energy can be transformed to another form. So this is the way in which we can understand law of conservation of energy in a petroleum refinery. Now let us throw some lights on the concept of exothermic and endothermic reactions. Let us take a real life situation of monomer blending. The picture shows the blending unit for a monomer in which the monomers are fed into the reactor. The polymerization reaction takes place. The reactor is equipped with cooling water system. A cooling water is circulated through this cooling coil to control the temperature of the system. Now you can ask me three questions. What is the need for cooling water system? How it will control the reaction temperature? And why should we control the temperature? So what is the need for cooling water system? Any polymerization reaction liberates enormous amount of heat. So this heat has to be immediately removed from the system. For any chemical reaction, the operating temperature, pressure and concentrations are very critical. So in order to maintain the critical temperature, the heat liberated from the system to be removed by applying cooling water circulation system. Then how it will control the reaction temperature? When we supply the cooling water to the system, the cooling water will absorb the excess heat liberated by the reaction now and then. So the cooling water enters into the cooling coil and leaves the reactor as a hot water. The heat is removed from the excess heat is removed from the system. So if there is no cooling water system, or if the cooling water system fails, means the heat liberated during the reaction will alter the reaction product specifications, and the product will become vaporized and the pressure inside the reactor will increase. At one stage, the enormous amount of heat produced during the reaction will cause the reactor to explode. Therefore, it is very essential to control the reaction temperature within the stipulated limit by applying cooling water system. If the cooling water system fails, means there may be some unwanted reactions may occur, or otherwise the reactor may explode. To prevent the unsafe conditions and to maintain the product specification, the circulation of cooling water system is very essential to control and monitor the operating temperature of the system. Now you can ask, from where heat is generated? How come the heat enters into the system? So the reaction is an exothermic reaction, hence the heat is liberated during the reaction. So whenever heat is liberated in a reaction, that reaction is called as exothermic reaction. So the definition for exothermic reaction says, an exothermic reaction is a chemical reaction that releases energy through light or heat. Next we will discuss another real life situation, thermal cracking. So thermal cracking is a very common phenomena in any petroleum refinery. It is used to convert the higher molecular weight hydrocarbons into smaller molecular hydrocarbons. Normally the alkanes are cracked in a thermal cracking unit to convert the alkanes into alkenes. So alkanes are more value added product. Here the diagram shows the cracking unit for LPG. Here heat is applied to the system. That is, steam is used to crack the LPG into smaller molecular hydrocarbons. So cracking can be defined as the conversion of heavy molecular weight hydrocarbon into small molecular weight hydrocarbon with or without catalyst by means of heat. So to break the heavy molecules into smaller molecules, heat energy is supplied to the system by means of system. The reaction mechanism absorbs heat from the surroundings. Whenever the reaction absorbs heat, it is an endothermic reaction. So endothermic reaction is defined as in any reaction which requires or absorbs thermal energy from its surroundings, usually in the form of heat, it is called endothermic reaction. Next we will discuss about one real life situation, cooking gas. In a petroleum refinery, crude oil is distilled to get various products like petrol, diesel, kerosene, fuel oil, lube oil, wax and gases. The gas is the one of the product obtained at the top of the distillation column. The commercial butane and commercial propane is filled in the cylinder or bottle and sold for cooking gas. Now you can raise a question whether cooking gas is a gas or liquid. When we are burning the gas appliances, we see only gas is burning. Gas is atomized in the nozzle and it is burning. But naturally, the gas as the name liquefied petroleum gas. Now you can raise whether it is gas or liquid. So liquefied petroleum gas LPG is atmospheric pressure and normal ambient temperature. It is in the form of gas. When we reduce the temperature or increase the pressure slightly, the gas will become liquid. Here, the liquefaction of gas concept is applied. So, what is gas liquefaction? Gas liquefaction involves cooling gas to a temperature below its boiling point so that it can be stored and transported in liquid phase. So, LPG, in our home we are using LPG gas. Naturally, when it is in cylinder, it is in the form of liquid. When it comes out of the cylinder, it is in the form of gas. So what is the composition of LPG? The LPG contains mixture of propane and butane. So 60:40 ratio, propane and butane is mixed. The cooking gas is in liquid form when it is stored in storage vessel or cylinder or bottle. So whenever you want to store the LPG, it has to be in liquid form. If you open the cylinder, you will get gas. So LPG is a colorless and odorless gas. An artificial odorant called ethyl mercaptan is used to find the leakage. To detect the leakage in the LPG cylinder, a odorant is added, but naturally the LPG is odorless and colorless gas. So how storage of LPG? The gas is stored in liquid form. While storing the gas, the liquid LPG in a cylinder, it is filled up to 85% of its total volume. The remaining 15% is provided as an empty space. Once the liquid is filled in the cylinder, the liquid starts to vaporize and this vapor occupies the 15% of the empty space. Then this vapor creates certain pressure inside the cylinder and maintains the LPG in the liquid state. So this is the storage of LPG. Then LPG boiling. So LPG is stored in the liquid form in the cylinder, 85% liquid, 15% is vapors of LPG. When you switch on the gas burner or gas stove, if you open the pressure regulator valve, some amount of pressure is released from the cylinder. Due to this decrease in pressure, the LPG starts boiling. In order to maintain the pressure equilibrium, the LPG starts boiling due to the heat absorbed from surroundings. So LPG absorbs heat from the surrounding and starts vaporizing. So this vapor is continuously withdrawn from the cylinder as long as the gas stove is on use. When you switch off the regulator, the LPG pressure is built up inside. The LPG vaporization stops. So a pressure is maintained inside the cylinder. LPG gas is in liquid form. So domestic LPG cylinder has a weight of 14.2 kg. The total volume of the cylinder is 33.3 liters water volume. So volume of LPG liquid filled in the cylinder is 27. That is 85% only filled. So 14.2 kg of LPG gas occupies the volume 28.4 liters in gas phase. So 14.2 kg of gas occupies 7.84 cubic meter when it is in gaseous phase. This is the reason when gas occupies 7.84 meter cube, 14.2 kg. The same 14.2 kg of liquid occupies 28.4 liters. That means 1 kg of liquid LPG expands 270 times. So if you want to store 14.2 kilogram of LPG in the gas form, you need 7.84 meter cube of space. Whereas if you want to store in the liquid form, only 28.4 liters is enough. That is why LPG is always stored in the liquid form, not in the gaseous form. For easy storage and transportation, LPG is liquefied and stored in the form of liquid. Then next we will discuss about another real life situation, biscuit manufacturing. That is how chemistry is applied in food industry we can see. In a biscuit manufacturing company, the raw materials are tested and mixed in a mixing unit, molded in a molding unit, then it is baked in a baking unit, then cooled down and packed for the sales. Now the question is, the manufacturer says biscuit is a complete food supplement. Now we have to check whether the raw material blended with the biscuit is suitable for human digestion. So biscuit is suitable for all age, right from the child to old age persons, everybody is eating biscuit. Now we have to check whether the ingredients is suitable for our digestive system or not. If it is suitable for the digestive system, we can accept the ingredients. So the main ingredients for a biscuit is wheat flour, sugar, and other ingredients are added. So now we will discuss about the human digestive system. The human digestive system consists of mouth, esophagus, stomach, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. So normally we eat food that contains generally carbohydrate, protein, and fat. So during digestion, carbohydrate is converted into glucose, protein is converted into amino acid, fat is converted into fatty acid and glycerol. Again, these glucose, amino acid, fatty acids are metabolized to get energy. Now when you eat a food, from the first bite itself your digestion starts. In the mouth, only carbohydrate digestion will take place. Whatever it may be the food you eat, it contains carbohydrate, fat and protein. Only the carbohydrate will be digested in the mouth by means of saliva. Then it goes to the stomach. In the stomach, carbohydrate digestion will be stopped. Only protein will be digested by means of enzymes and stomach acid. Then it goes to the small intestine. In the small intestine, all the three components, carbohydrates, protein and fat are digested and absorbed as the energy. And the remaining portion goes to the large intestine. In the large intestine, water and other salts are absorbed and the waste goes to the rectum and it is eliminated through the anus. Now we can see carbohydrate, whenever you eat a food, it should contain carbohydrate, protein, fat. Therefore, carbohydrate can be converted into glucose, protein can be converted into amino acid, fat can be converted into fatty acid. So this carbohydrate, glucose, protein, amino acid, fat is the fatty acid. When biscuit is used as a food supplement, it may contain carbohydrate, protein and fat. So we have chosen the ingredient as the wheat flour. The wheat flour contains carbohydrate, protein in the form of gluten and fat. Therefore, the ingredients are best food supplement for digestion we can decide. Next we can go for biotechnology and biochemical engineering, a real life situation. When we are taking some tablets for any disease, it should be administered through mouth, and if it is tablet, it goes through mouth. If it is a medicine, you can take through injection. So when you take medicines through mouth, it has to travel along the body in 4 ways. So first we will say what is drug. A drug is any substance that causes a change in any organism's physiology or psychology when consumed. Composition of drug. Any drug contains two major composition. One is active pharma ingredients and another one is the excipients. The active pharma ingredients only the active substances which will fight against the disease, and other components are inactive materials. So for example, the paracetamol tablet contains 500 mg of paracetamol. This is called API, active pharma ingredients, and other compositions or components are lactose, starch, magnesium stearates. These are called excipients. So now we altering this paracetamol API composition and the excipients composition, we can do lot of formulations, new formulations. Now the 4 stages of drug penetration. So drugs are penetrated through absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion. In absorption, it depends upon the bioavailability of the drug. When you are formulating a drug, you should concentrate on how to increase the bioavailability. This bioavailability depends. What is bioavailability? Bioavailability is the amount of drug which can be absorbed through our body. That is called bioavailability. To increase the bioavailability, we have to increase the solubility and pH. It plays vital role in the absorption process. Then distribution. It is a reversible transfer of drug between blood to tissues, membrane permeability, molecular size, ionization constant. Then metabolism. During the distribution, drugs are circulated to the affected area by means of blood circulation system. Once the drug is circulated through the system, it goes to the affected tissues and the drug is consumed. Then the remaining portion of the drugs is a foreign material for our body. So any foreign material enters into the body, it will be detoxified in the place of liver. So liver plays the vital role in metabolism and detoxifying any foreign substances. As far as our body is concerned, the unutilized drug is a foreign body, so it will detoxify the drug and eliminate through urine. So this metabolism is carried out by the enzymatic breakdown of the drugs. It is followed by oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, hydration, conjunction, condensation and isomerization. Finally, the metabolites are eliminated through kidney. That depends upon the half-life period of the drug, pH of the urine, concentration of drug and molecular weight of the drug. So these are the areas the chemistry can be applied in biotechnology and biochemical engineering. Conclusion. Engineering is an application of science, combination of mathematics. Chemistry plays a major role in all the domains of engineering. Matter consists of atoms and molecules. These are the building blocks of every living organism and non-living things. Finally, we can say there is no chemistry, there is no world. Thank you very much.